There's a lot of fuss surrounding the low carb, high fat kind of diet. It is currently the most talked about kind of diet on any health forums. It is also the most researched, and there is no doubt that it is also one of the best kind of diet that you can adapt to. My name is Lilian Momina. I'm a clinical nutritionist, and I want us to discuss some of the benefits that you can get from adapting a low carb, high fat kind of diet. Stick around until the end because I will give tips on how to easily adjust into this kind of diet regardless of what kind of diet you have been practicing. Without further ado, let's get into it. Benefit number 1. Low carb, high fat diet helps control insulin resistance, one of the metabolic conditions that is characterized by an elevated blood glucose, but not to a point where it can be termed as diabetes. If you have been experiencing frequent urination, like frequent thirst, you have suddenly been gaining the abdominal waist, these are some of the signs and symptoms that you might be having insulin resistance. You can check the video on assessing and controlling insulin resistance up there. Carbohydrate is the main nutrient that spikes insulin need in the body. So if you reduce the consumption of carbohydrates, you will reduce the blood glucose, and then this will reduce the insulin need. Your body cells can relax a bit from overproducing the insulin. The second benefit is weight loss. If you are obese or overweight, adapting a low carb, high fat kind of diet is one of the best proven ways to help you shed off the excess weight. Obesity is also a metabolic disorder that is characterized by an elevated BMI, an increased fat deposition in your body, the arms area, the abdominal area, and such. Consuming a low carb, high fat kind of diet triggers fat burning. It helps you control the production of insulin in the body. Insulin is known as the hormone that triggers fat storage and of course obesity. When you're able to limit your intake of carbohydrates, you are able to help your body readjust to fat burning instead of fat storage. Also, reducing intake of carbohydrates promotes leptin sensitivity. Leptin is basically the hormone that tells your brain we are full. If you're leptin resistant, you're going just to eat. Overconsumption again triggers weight gain, makes weight loss almost impossible. The third benefit will be controlling hypertension. There is an association of consumption of processed and refined carbohydrates and the simple sugars with an elevated blood pressure. The fourth reason why you should adapt a low carb, high fat kind of diet is it will help you reduce chronic liver disorders like the non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, the cirrhosis, the sukari, the sweet juices, ice cream. Continued consumption of the refined and processed carbohydrates over time has been linked to increased incidences of non-alcoholic fatty liver disease and liver cirrhosis. It can also bring about liver cancers. The liver is the biggest internal organ that you have, so you want to make sure that you spare it and you protect it. The good thing about the liver is it is able to rejuvenate itself. If you adjust your dietary habits, you can be able to trigger the liver cell rejuvenation and promote your liver health to reduce and prevent cardiovascular disorders. These are chronic disorders that can be fatal if not controlled. Stroke, congestive heart failure. When someone tells you they're on a shimo kwa roho, the continuous deposition of the triglycerides and the cholesterol on the blood vessels usually compromise on the way your heart is functioning, and this predisposes you to cardiovascular diseases. You want to adapt a low carb, high fat kind of diet to spare your kidney. Kidneys are tasked with the excretion of the metabolic and the digestion system waste products like the uric acid, sugars, the salts. Most processed and refined carbohydrates usually have high levels of sugar, high levels of salt. Overconsumption will burden your kidneys because they have to work much harder to excrete these waste products from your system, and sometimes they get a bit tired. You start getting that there's accumulation of the waste products in your body. You can get kidney failure, inflammatory disorders. Spare your kidneys by altering your dietary habits to consumptions of low carbohydrates, high fat, and moderate protein. The other reason that you need to adapt a low carb, high fat, and moderate protein kind of diet is to promote your brain health. The body prioritizes energy from carbohydrates, that is glucose, than other macronutrients, that is fat and protein. But again, it doesn't mean that the body cannot utilize the other macronutrients. Reducing carbohydrates and increasing fat triggers metabolic switch. Your brain is able to switch energy sources from carbohydrates to fat. By so doing, it is able to trigger formation of ketones, and ketones produce more energy for the body. You become more active, and you also reduce the quantities that you're taking up, and your body can utilize what it has. Reducing intake of carbohydrates is essential. It has been shown to promote longevity and not live long when you're suffering. Studies as recent as 2022 have shown that, and we have evidence to support that. As I promised earlier, I was going to give us tips on how to easily adjust or grow into a low carb, high fat kind of diet. Tip number 1, grow by reducing the intake of refined and processed carbohydrates, the table sugars. Anything in your pantry that has sugar, anything in your fridge that has sugar, the store-bought fruit juices, reduce the intake of that. Prioritize your carbohydrates carbohydrate sources from whole grains, like maybe oats, like ngwashe, like ugali, brown rice, brown chapatis, brown breads, but not the store-bought ones. If you can bake so that confirm the authenticity of the brown flour, that will be great for you. Switching up from processed and refined carbohydrates to intake of whole grains increases your intake of fiber, your intake of other micronutrients that the body needs, the antioxidants, the vitamins, minerals, and such. This will improve your gut health, and you'll have better digestion, metabolic health, reduce incidences of disease. The second tip of how to grow into a low carb kind of diet: add an avocado slice in your meals. The other tip is making sure that anything that is going to be left on your plate is not the fat, the protein is not the vegetables, leave the carbohydrates. The other tip is you've served your meals and you've not gotten full. So before you go for the second serving, always wait 20 minutes or 20 to 30 minutes. Just give yourself time. Do something. If you are in an office or if you are in a function, go talk to someone. We are humans and we are visuals. The brain produces ghrelin on sight of food. This will start telling your body we are not yet full. If you've not gotten to a point whereby your hormone coordination, the leptin, the ghrelin, and the insulin are functioning well, one of the ways that you can easily adjust to a low carb, high fat kind of diet is giving yourself a wait time like 20 to 30 minutes before an additional amount of food. Do not serve a huge amount of foods in your plate. Just serve moderate intake, then eat that fast. When you're finishing, do something, talk to a person, do a chore here and then after the 30 minutes, take a glass of water, and then go about your day. You'll find that you've reduced your intake. The other tip: take a cod liver oil supplement. You can also take an omega-3 supplement. This may not be so filling in the first few weeks, but when you're doing this, make sure that you also increase your intake of vegetables. Increasing your intake of vegetables increases your fiber intake. This improves satiety, it reduces the continuous food cravings. Limit the intake of sweet fruits. Take your fruits with their peels. Wash them nicely with soap and water so that you don't get other infections. If it's an apple, eat with their peel. If it's a mango, you eat with their peels. Do not peel the fruits that you can eat the peels. It will provide you with extra fiber and also getting the other phytonutrients, the lycopenes, the beta carotene. Carrots, don't peel them. So improve satiety and reduce the quantity of carbohydrates that you're going to consume on that meal setting. The other tip that you can do when readjusting is, of course, increasing your water intake. It might be hard at times if you're not used to taking water. Some people will tell you that they feel like vomiting when they take water. Others will tell you that I just can't, I'm not thirsty. Someone will tell you to take a glass of water a day. Most people usually confuse thirst with hunger. And the most available type of foods, maybe in terms of snacks in the country, you'll go outside the office, you'll get fries there, you'll get someone selling cake and tea, someone selling hot dog there. Before you go to that vendor, you can always take some water, have some coffee, wheatgrass, have tea. With time, you will get used to it. It can be hard at times, but it will get better. The good thing, a low carb, high fat, moderate protein intake is something that is very, very sustainable, because there's nothing that you're limiting your body. You're not limiting any type of nutrients in your day-to-day activities. You're consuming all the macronutrients, you're consuming all the micronutrients, but you're reducing the quantities of carbohydrates. This is not keto. Keto is the diet that kind of eliminates all the carbohydrates, but a low carb, high fat, moderate protein, you're taking your carbohydrates, but you're limiting the quantities and you're increasing your fat intake. You can tell me on the comment sections what kind of diet that you have been doing, what has been working for you, some of the challenges that you have been getting in your day-to-day activities. Yeah, and let's engage. If you found this video useful, kindly give it a thumbs up and kindly subscribe to my YouTube channel. Thank you.